Sarah Huckabee Sanders, the huckster. Yeah, as I very publicly stated one time while looking foolish, she is the former press secretary for Donald Trump, went on to become governor of Arkansas. Man, you would think that she would want to lay low, Trump being a famous criminal and all. But no, she knows what era she's in. It's the era. It's the final days of the Republican Party when the mask is just about off. It's very clear that they're criminals. It's very clear that they abuse a system which allows them to get away with crime. And they've got a prisoner's dilemma. The more blatantly they do crime, the shorter they're going to be away. They're going to be able to get away with it. And so she's taken full advantage. What has she done? Well, it seems to involve a podium. And I'll tell you, we're not all the way through this story. I can't tell you where it's going to go, but this is some old-fashioned Tammany Hall style political corruption. Let's talk about it. I suppose the main difference is that whatever the people enjoyed with their ill-gotten gains in the Tammany Hall days. This is the early days of America. I'm sure it would have been like cigars and a Nickelodeon picture show or something. Well, Sarah Huckabee Sanders got to go to France. Here it is. Let's get rid of this. That'll tell you a little bit about this site. So take all this with a grain of salt, this flood of ads that came in here. But the site is Political Flair. And here is the article, if it loads. Yes, it does. Looks like a scandal involving Sarah Huckabee Sanders fleecing Arkansas taxpayers. I'm sorry for saying it like that. Arkansas taxpayers is about to blow up. If Sarah Huckabee Sanders wasn't already a talented grifter prior to working for Donald Trump, being his spokesperson was like a master class before the daughter of a politician / evangelical pastor got her more than ready to take the reins. Being the daughter of a politician / evangelical pastor got her more than ready to take the reins of the most corrupt president of all time. And in turn, that job polished her skills enough to land her in the governor's mansion in Arkansas. But everyone eventually slips up, no matter how good they are, and it looks like #PodiumGate may be coming back to haunt her. If you don't remember or never heard, I didn't, because I never had. That's okay. Oh, good. This story seems silly on the surface, and it remains silly throughout, but it's still a crime. We see government waste all the time, especially with Republicans. True. So finding out that Sarah had spent nearly $20,000 on a podium to speak from behind, and that it was initially taxpayer money until she got caught, and the Arkansas GOP paid it back for her, wasn't that big a deal. Quick question: why would they do that? Can you guess? Why would they do that? Because a crime for her is a scandal for them. They do this a lot. When your friends and family, and in fact, consider spreading this to your friends and family that donate to Republicans. If they think that they are centrist if they think they are, then they are. But if they are centrist Republicans and they think that just donating to the Republican Party is somehow better than donating to a MAGA candidate specifically. All right, it kind of is, but understand that they are just paying to the crime bailout fund. Make sure you tell your Republican supporting associates, whoever they are, the Republican Party is a criminal organization, and if you give money to them, you are financing crime. Case in point, here the Arkansas GOP paid back the $20,000 that Sarah Huckabee Sanders stole from taxpayers. If you pay money to the Republicans, you are paying to finance crime. Period. End of story, as Sam Cedar would say. But a Republican state legislator thought that was kind of fishy, too. So State Senator Jimmy Hickey called on the Legislative Audit of Arkansas, a nonpartisan entity that answers to the legislative branch in the state rather than the executive, to look into a few things. Hickey asked for one or more audits regarding the purchase of a podium or lectern from Beckett Events LLC for the use of the governor's office, and you might remember that name, Beckett Events LLC. We'll come back to it. And all matters involving the governor or the governor's office made confidential by Section 4A of Act 7 of the first extraordinary session of 2023. What exactly, you might be asking, is Section 4A of Act 7 of the first extraordinary session of 2023? I'm glad you hypothetically asked. That's the law she tried to pass to make it illegal to investigate this transaction. A whole law to make it illegal to investigate this transaction. Outside groups are now saying that Sanders paid friends for a podium she never got. Moreover, they claim that the money was used to fly Sanders' friend, Hannah, to Paris when Sanders went. Like a girls' trip. Hooray! That does sound lovely. It's just, the crime that's the problem. Okay, pay attention because this gets a tiny bit complicated. Hannah Stone, one of the organizers of the January 6 riots, is business partners with Virginia Beckett, another person implicated in January 6th. There it is, Beckett, involved in January 6th. So Sarah Huckabee Sanders was hanging out with two traitors. Two traitors. That alone should disqualify her from office. Just being seen having coffee with these miserable bastards. The money for the podium was paid to Beckett, and then Stone ended up on the same European trip as Sanders, who is friends with both of them. This is a case of 2 + 2 = 4. Sanders inflated the invoice with a podium that still hasn't actually been seen by anyone, panicked when she got caught spending voters' money, and tried to make it illegal to even examine what she'd spent money on or who was on her flights. It's an opinion, but I still disagree with the author in this coming paragraph. I would understand if the privacy exemptions to the Freedom of Information Act were about security, but she doesn't want anyone knowing about past activity either. I would not understand if the exemptions from the Freedom of Information Act were about security. Because they're not. That's a false, what they're putting there. I know this is an anti-Sanders article. Not anti enough. They're saying, I understand the rest of this stuff going forward, not being able to investigate future fraud, but she wants to cover up past fraud? No. The Freedom of Information Act exists for a reason. That is the most powerful tool in any journalist's playbook. And guess what? It's in your playbook too. When you want to find information and a public official won't give it to you, you FOIA them. Freedom of Information Act requests them. You can do it. I have done it. It's as easy as saying, this is a FOIA request, please provide me with X documentation. Under no circumstances, I take that back, under very few circumstances should that ever be restricted. This guy summed it up pretty well. It's by Fool M. Once. Sarah Sanders went on an all-expense-paid girls' trip to Paris. Well, friends' trip to Paris. Let's come on now. Didn't want it to show up in the records, so made up an imaginary $19,000 lectern to cover the cost of the trip. Then panicked, called an emergency session of the Republican legislature to cover up the fraud. #PodiumGate. And there, at the bottom there, is Sarah Sanders, the Arkansas governor who failed at a PodiumGate cover-up, and Virginia Beckett and Hannah Stone, two traitors to the United States, who she paid off with your money. taxpayers. That circle of attempted to make your vote worth nothing. They have probably signed legislation that has made your family's lives harder, your friends' lives harder, your life harder. They are responsible for the heating of the planet you're on, and the only one we've got as of this moment in human history. They, on top of all of that, stole $20,000 from you when you can't even take the time off work to go on vacation. They stole $20,000 from you so they could go on a fun vacation to Paris. That's what they think of you. That's why they are in office. That is why they do what they do. It's because they're too cowardly to jimmy a lock and break into your house or hold up a bank. They don't have the backbone for any of that, but they still want to be thieves. So what can you do? If you're in Arkansas, boy, ask your local news if they are going to be covering this. Just constantly ask them, hey, when's the last update you have on Podium Gate? When are you doing your next story on Podium Gate? So on and so forth. Where does the investigation stand on Podium Gate? And on and on. That's all you got to do. Get your local news on it. And the fact that she's messing with FOIA requests, they're going to be motivated to go get her. Even if they are themselves a bit conservative, that's their bread and butter that's getting messed with. They are going to be motivated to get after her. So I would highly recommend to you that you talk to your local news about it. If you are not in Arkansas, I would just bring up Podium Gate as much as you can. I would search it on social media. I would share articles about it. I would make this a story that the general public is aware of. I found it through obscure means, and it should not be so. I do realize that Trump is the actual danger right now. But we need to make it clear for all voters in the United States, and for that matter, all conservatives around the world, exactly what the modern conservative is all about. Stealing from you. They're thieves. That's literally all they are. They're not particularly sophisticated. They are just quite cowardly and quite dedicated to thieving from you. And they have the easiest grift on earth. They just pretend like your neighbor is dangerous. That's the whole grift. They get you squinting at your neighbor, and then they steal from your back pocket. Ask your local news about this if you're in Arkansas. And regardless of where you are, share these stories on social media. Hell, share the VOD from this if you want to be cheeky, but do the easiest version that's possible. Let's see what the wicked community has.